This is Davey White, punctuating your mind. It's definitely about Eastwood, and on Monday we might do a bit similar to that with a character.
Just the characters.
Okay, and then what I'll do is I'll also email you guys an option for creative to try and have a little go of a creative task, about 200, 300 words max, okay? And what it actually be mostly on you picking some minor characters, and I'm thinking maybe the two bodyguards from the different races, and they pick some situations and they sort of say what's happening in their head, but from later on, I remember when I used to think this and I thought that, but now I realise XYZ. So we might, okay, so Eastwood presents a Mandela. So this is, now the issue here is that this is a real person. Nelson Mandela was real. However, in this film, he is still a character because it's a representation of him. So if I say over here, here's all the things that Nelson Mandela is and was and did, yes?
Like the real one?
The real one.
Okay.
Clint Eastwood said, I'm picking this, 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 this.
Okay.
And I don't like that, don't like that, don't like that, that's nasty, none of that, okay? And so the Mandela he represents is this red one.
Okay, like a good.
Yeah, okay. And so it's vastly different. So here's the real Mandela, and here's the Mandela in the film. Yes?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, the Mandela in the film is true, but not detailed. So it's not a made-up Mandela. He's not invented a different event and said, and he's done this as well. But he's done these sort of things. He has altered some events and put them, this really happened, but I'm going to put it there instead of here. Or this happened, but I'm going to change it to be about this instead of that. Okay? The reason he did this is because Eastwood would have had his sort of ideas that he wanted to put forward. Now, he probably liked Nelson Mandela and honoured him and wanted to portray him as a really amazing man. Okay? But when we think about it, he also wanted to show things about leadership and courage and, you know, not being conquerable. That's why he's called Invictus and whatever. Okay, so here are his ideas, and that's where you've got to start. Okay, so the country, which country is it that we're looking at? South Africa. South Africa. Now when we say the country, South Africa was a divided nation.
Yeah.
And you have the Afrikaners, and then the Africans. Generally, I'm just going to say, generally there's two sides. There was a bit more, but we'll generally say this. Now this was the minority of people, and this was the majority of people. But they are in charge, yes? Now their opinion of Mandela was they hated him. Here was a terrorist, which we hear in those opening scenes of the film. Look, there's that terrible terrorist, whatever. This side sort of see him as a bit of a saviour.
Like a hero.
Like a hero, which is why he was voted in, why he became the president. Okay? And so vastly different to how the country had previously viewed him. So even though this is the majority, the minority ruled, and the minority opinion is what the country, because he was put in jail. Yes? So the idea that he was in jail, 27 years, etc. So this is seen as the view of the nation. Yes? And if you're South African, you're white, because these are non-people. These are just natives, these are just blacks, these are non-people. So this side is seen
That's the country.
as the country, as South Africa. Yes? Okay. So they previously viewed him. Yes? So think about, what do we see about Nelson Mandela?
Like what the Africans think of him.
No, the red. So we see a strong man who's courageous.
Determined.
Sorry?
Determined.
Determined, yes. He's forgiving. Yes? Because remember how they were afraid they're going to drive us into the sea, they're going to do all these horrible things. They were scared of him as well. So they were also scared of Mandela. So this is showing a Mandela who, despite the fact having these people treat him so poorly, forgave them and wanted to unify. Yes? Okay? And he was also a man who could see that these people wanted revenge almost, and he said, no, we're better than that. Because they saw him and everyone else as subhuman, which we learnt this morning. Yes?
Yeah.
And so it's almost humanizing him.
Humanizing.
Making him human.
Making Mandela.
Yes.
Who?
Eastwood makes him human.
Okay.
He has cups of tea, he says good morning to people, goes for walks, he's a normal human. Because he was subhuman, he's not a human. Yes? Okay. Now what are his ideas? He wants to show that apartheid is terrible. Causes immense damage, yes? And it was devised to destroy. But it didn't destroy.
Yeah.
Okay? And that it was devised to destroy a people, but what it nearly did was destroy a country or a nation. Yes? And therefore it needed someone like this to then counteract this problem,
Yeah.
to stop this problem, and it needed forgiveness, unification, whatever. Okay. Then it uses he presents Mandela. Mandela's also sport loving, sport mad, whatever. Yes. And so it uses the symbol of sport that represents this unification issue. Yes? Okay. Who else has some of these qualities? Forget the humanizing. Francois Pienaar. Okay. So what happens is he aligns Mandela with Francois Pienaar. And so it's even this unification and stuff there, yes? And then you think presents, I'll get a different pen, sorry. Still a bit too loud. Presents, this almost means creates, makes, chooses, presents a Mandela. He chooses to portray. It's in the Mandela that's been portrayed. And the Mandela that's been portrayed, it's also in the events that allow this type of Mandela to be seen.
But do we need to say not all of them?
No, you don't say what they... So in your intro, you'll sort of say how he's taken certain elements. He's focused only on that first year of rule. And he's focused on the rugby. Yes? Okay. And then we think of the context of South Africa at the time. Because remember, they had the sports sanctions. Because by the time Nelson Mandela was in rule, this country, South Africa, was seen in a very poor light by the world.
They were even banned from.
Yeah, the rest of the world didn't like them. So Nelson Mandela, this is where we actually destroyed the country and destroyed the nation. Nelson Mandela, he had to unify, but he also had to build
The image.
up the image of South Africa in the world.
And he did this by the match, like
Yes.
the sport.
Yeah, but also what he did was that the rugby match was to unify the country. Because remember, the Afrikaners liked rugby and the Africans liked soccer. Beginning of the film again. We have them across the road, divide, playing different sports, and Mandela's called a terrorist. And the boy refused the jumper
Yeah.
because it represented apartheid. And then so Nelson Mandela said, no, it represents everything that they hated, everything that went bad for them. And we have to change this sport to represent us together, us as a country. That being South African isn't this, that being South Africa is no longer divided. This, all of it is South African.
Was there any reason why Mandela chose rugby rather than soccer?
Well, because rugby, they also have the national team and everything like that.
Or there was nothing for soccer like that?
And soccer was their sport, rugby was here.
Yeah.
So
That's
it's
what I'm
They're not going to come here. He has to.
so like just because they were Africans, their sport was not their sport was not given that much of importance.
No,
and that's
exactly.
why.
Yeah, and that's why he had you have to go out and teach in the schools. That's why we're going to change the symbol. But then when they said we're going to change it now, this, he said we can't change everything because they're worried that we're going to drive them into the sea, and you take everything off them. We can't act the same way. We cannot be the same, because to us to be the same is a lesser, which is probably opposite of what we're saying in the White Tiger, that the Indians, the British were gone. They go, good, the British are gone, now we can act just like them.
No.
Some Africans were going, good, the Afrikaners are no longer in charge, we can be just like them, and now we can boss them around, they can be our slaves. And Nelson Mandela says, no, we cannot. Not because they're lower or, but they deserve some punishment, but he said, but we are not that person. We are not going to become that person. We say we are better. They never treated us as better. We will still be better. We have to be a good people. Yeah. Okay, and so it's all about a very, very positive portrayal. Very positive
If I
portrayal.
would try to come up with 3 topic sentences, would I start with
Well, it'll probably be about the symbols and things that he's using. So the symbolism of sport, how he showed that how did he show the nation was divided at the beginning? How did he show the nation was joined at the end? So with the sports match, everyone on the streets, everyone was cuddling. That little boy who refused the jersey was, Disney-like, jumping in the arms of the policeman and drinking their drink, as if that even happened.
did it?
No, that's called what I call a kumbaya Disney ending. Yeah. Happily ever after. No. And even now, nearly 20 years later, South Africa is not this, not perfect nation. There's a lot of, when you don't let whole races of people for generations and generations and generations never be educated, never have rights, it has an impact. And just to suddenly say, and now that's finished, doesn't mean that all these people have all the education they've missed out on.
So it was a temporary change.
Well, no, it's still, this all happened, but remember, he's leaving out the orange.
No, like what Mace was trying to say, it's like it's not a temporary change, but still the change is not complete.
It's not complete. It's a long process.
Okay.
It's a long process.
Can I say my first one is Eastwood presents Mandela as a forgiving person. That
Yes,
shows
yeah, any of these. I think you should, remember how I said how vastly different to how the country had previously viewed him. So how they previously view him as a terrorist, as horrible, as, you know, why they view him in that way? Because he was African, because of apartheid, rah, rah, rah. Yes? Why did he want the change? Because this is this, yes? Okay, so you start with how had they viewed him? What's the Mandela presented? And then why did he present this Mandela instead of that Mandela?
that's like the second.
That,
part.
yeah, and that part of that is, well, he wanting to show this, because this is an important message.
Yes.
Yeah,
With the first topic which we had, like aspect of Mandela's leadership,
yeah.
like one of the qualities could we say he was a patriotic because patriotism was
Yeah, he still loved,
his country.
he loved his country.
That's why.
Yeah.
What about it?
Yeah, it's still his land, it's still his country, it's still part of who he is, and he wasn't going to let them change that. Yeah. All right. So for you guys, I want you to try one of those two essays, both if you want. And the creative, pick those bouncers, the bodyguards, and maybe write 100 to 200 words for each bodyguard on how they're feeling at the end of the process. So, you know, is it Jason? I think there was one called Jason.
Yeah, one was Jason.
Yeah, with the leather jacket.
Uh-huh.
And he was really like, yeah, we're going to get them, and they're not going to make us feel like crap anymore, and
then they come
how
up
dare
with
you
the-
make me work with these white people, you know. And in the end he was like, actually they've got some values. And the white people, maybe even that one who was a bit kinder but a bit silly, asked silly questions and whatever, yeah. You know, well, where's your family? You know, that one, and he could be like, oh, I didn't know much about Mandela, and I only have ever been told he was a terrorist, or, yeah, or even Francois Pinard's girlfriend, or Francois Pinard's maid,
Yeah.
yeah, which that's also a very Disneyfied thing.
What about?
She was still their maid, and which means she probably doesn't see her family at all for decades, but now, yay, you know, this is my no, like, but,
She in the film she seemed so happy, although I think she wouldn't be happy in real life.
no, I'm sure we have elements of happiness, but I'm sure there's a very few elements of despair, and yeah, the damage would be long lasting. But Clint Eastwood definitely didn't go into that aspect of it. Yeah. All right. Okay, I'm going to stop here. Put this at the front of your mind, not at the back of your book. Subscribe. You know you want to.